right, hello and welcome to another expert interview, and today I'm joined by Trish Bertuzzi. Welcome, Trish.
Hello.
And Trish is from the Bridge Group, and she's also author of that fantastic book, the Sales Development Playbook, a book I suggest you all check out, and it's on SalesPOP. I'm John Golden from SalesPOP Online Sales Magazine and Pipeliner CRM. And today I wanted to talk to Trish a little bit about account-based revenue strategies. So that sounds very grand. What does account-based revenue strategy really mean?
Well, it sounds better when you say that it's very grand. So in reality, it's a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
So companies go to market different ways. For those companies that are selling into the enterprise or selling large ticket items where the decision is a committee decision or it's a complex sale, they've had to figure out a new way to reinvent themselves to get past that huge wall that buyers have put up between them and potential sellers. So what has emerged originally was something called account-based marketing, ABM, right? It's the hottest buzzword out there, ABM.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's not just about marketing differently to those accounts. It's about selling to those accounts. So when we talk to our clients and friends in the community, we talk about ABR, account-based revenue, because we're trying to get them to look at the bigger picture.
Right.
It's not just about tactics. It's about how you actually drive revenue from a very specific set of accounts. So that's ABR.
Mm-hmm. So that's very interesting because obviously, with account-based marketing, as you say, being a big a buzzword right now, and and people tend to sort of lemming-like tend to run after the latest shiny object, right?
Yeah.
And it was content marketing, inbound marketing, account-based marketing. So how would you advise somebody to approach like ABR or ABM? What are some of the first steps you should take to make sure you do it properly?
You just set me up, right? First step is you should hire me, right?
Right.
Obviously, right? No, the first thing you should do, in all seriousness, is figure out if it's even right for you.
Right.
Like if you sell to the SMB or you sell to the mid-market well, let's just leave it right there. So if you sell to the SMB or you sell to the mid-market, you probably don't need ABR. You just probably need better demand gen, right? But because everyone's all excited about the buzz around ABM, they're picking up all their eggs and putting them in that basket when that is not necessarily the right strategy. So the first question we ask people when we work with them is the following. Where do you want your revenue to come from?
Right.
Once you figure that out, if you're like, I want all my revenue to come from the enterprise, well, then ABR is probably right from you. Or I want 50% of my revenue to come from the SMB and mid-market and 50% from the enterprise. Well, then you might need two strategies.
Right.
So it's the all eggs in one basket strategy that freaks me out.
Right. So tell me a little bit about, so often what I often find about when you talk about, any account-based approach is some people don't understand what an account really is. Some people see accounts as, just a collection of opportunities, right? Rather than an overall strategic approach. Have you found that?
No. I think people have a good understanding of what the definition of an account is, where people might be a little shy on understanding is how to select the right accounts for them to go after. So that's also another area that requires a bit of education. You can't just, it's not about your field rep driving down the road and going, oh, billboard, yep, put them on the list. Oh, look at them, tried to sell them for a decade, never bought from me, put them on the list. It should be very scientific and data-rich decision making. And there's a ton of technologies. There's predictive technologies. There's buyer intent data. I mean, never before have we had so much information at our fingertips that would enable us to do this.
So, I mean, as you said, it's a lot of hard work, and I think obviously, you have to decide what part of the market you're playing in and whether it's applicable to you or not. But once you get in and start doing it, what are some of the differences between, when somebody, like one of your clients, for instance, starts to adopt, ABR? What differences do you see?
Okay. So it's not just about having your SDRs banging the phones and getting meeting for your AEs,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's like in a strategic account or an enterprise account. Not That's the hardest road to hoe, right? You don't want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
It's about looking at that account and saying, how are we going to communicate with them throughout our organization? Who knows who? Does our board member know their board member? Does our CEO know their CEO? Did our VP of marketing go to school with their VP of product? I mean, you want to start to look holistically at what potential
Mm-hmm.
relationships are there, and you want to leverage those. Then you want to build out a play or a communication strategy that surrounds all of the players in that account with high value content, high
Mm-hmm.
value events, high value interactions, high value communications. You want to do that in a way using a variety of media that till finally that account is just like, whoa, this company gets me and I
Mm-hmm.
want to talk to them.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a value game with ABR.
Right. And so, I mean, in honesty, then this is obviously why you help a lot of companies. This is something that maybe doesn't come naturally to organizations. Again, as I said, people tend to
Mhm,
get very opportunity focused. Even enterprise salespeople who work big accounts still tend to often get opportunity focused and don't like to stray too far outside of their direct contact areas. So
mhm.
this is really inviting a lot more people into the account in many ways.
Absolutely. You hit it on the head.
Hmm.
It's figuring out it's an organizational strategy.
Right.
It's not a sales strategy.
Hmm.
Very different.
So in order to make that happen, then when you work with companies, I mean,
Mhm,
you need to gather together, obviously, a number of different people and get them all on the
mhm.
same page. How does that happen? How does that work?
Usually, we start off with an organizational readiness workshop to make sure that the leadership team shares the same vision and the same goals and the same expectations around what this is actually going to mean for them. Because this isn't a turn on a dime strategy,
Hmm.
it requires significant investment, right? So you want to make sure that your leadership is on the same page. So we always start there with an organizational readiness workshop. And you come out of that with a clear understanding and documentation amongst the leadership team of how they're going to execute. And then from there, you can do marketing readiness workshops, sales readiness
Hmm.
workshops. You want to make sure that your entire organization understands the why of why we're going to do this and the how of how we're going to do it, and that they're ready to execute. You don't just, walk up to them and go,
Hmm.
we're going to change everything you've been doing for the last 5 years. There you go.
Hmm.
You really want to make sure it works.
Yeah. And how do you handle, because I mean, sometimes when you do something like this, okay, you may have a short-term impact. Like, for instance, maybe sales is working, as I say, like very opportunity based, and now you're saying, okay, we're going to take a more strategic approach to this account.
Hmm.
It may put a couple of things on the back burner, even potentially in the short term. So how do you handle that transition, where people are very obviously short term revenue focused, but you're
Right.
saying there'll be more revenue and there'll be a deeper relationship, but it may take a little longer.
So although I do say that,
Hmm.
you still have to keep the wheels on the revenue
Exactly.
bus.
Hmm.
So we never recommend that someone just like turn the spigot and all of a sudden all, like I said before, all the eggs are in one basket.
Hmm.
This is a crawl, walk, run strategy. You don't just all of a sudden say, we're going to change everything we've done before.
Hmm.
You're going to probably, I hate the word pilot. I can't think of a better word, but you're going to test drive, or I'll
Hmm.
think of something magical, but you're going to execute at a smaller
Right,
scale
right.
so you can figure out what works, what doesn't, um, you know, what your impact can potentially be before you go full bore. So you never just flip over the
Hmm.
strategy. You got to keep those wheels on the bus.
So it sounds to me like this is a very methodical and thought out approach. I mean, you really, as you said at the very beginning, you need to do a lot of hard work, and then you need to plan it out kind of baby steps at a time. It's not one of those ones that you can just switch on. You've obviously worked with a lot of companies and successfully helped them with this. Without naming names, could you give some examples of where what you've seen happen to an organization that really implements this well?
Well, it's new, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've only been working with clients. I think we started last December.
Mm-hmm.
So things are new. What I'm seeing, I can't give you like revenue numbers,
No,
but
no, no, that's not.
what I'm seeing is a higher level of engagement with the accounts,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a metric you want to measure.
Yeah.
So the accounts that you're targeting are becoming engaged with your content, with your events, with your salespeople, and you're starting to have better conversations there. Getting to engagement is the hardest part of the sales process nowadays.
Sure.
I
Mm-hmm.
say that all day, every day.
Sure.
Getting people to react because we have bored the crap out of them is the hardest part of the sales process. So I'm seeing a significant increase in level of engagement with people who are executing this strategy. Once again, they tend to be bigger deals, longer sales cycles, so the numbers will follow.
So how do you help people differentiate and stand out? Because as you say, I mean, uh, content marketing and content, we've talked about that for a long time now, and it's, people are kind of overwhelmed. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of people who think that any content is good content and just sending
Yeah.
stuff all the time.
Content is the new spam.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the antidote to this when you're working with a company that, when you're trying to do a good account-based strategy, how do you make sure that your content really stands out and you don't come across as just another person spamming them?
I bring in my marketing partner, Inverta. That's their area of expertise, not mine.
Mhm.
They're the people that know how to evaluate content more effectively than I do. I don't have a marketing brain. I have a sales brain.
Mhm. But
I only have one.
right. But I mean, how do you help the organizations make sure that they're not, as they do this approach, that they don't just kind of run away with themselves?
I'm not sure I understand your
Well, I
question.
mean that they don't suddenly get like, overboard on the amount of communications, with an account, and they're not
Oh,
touching too many people and people are kind of bumping into each other.
well, that would never happen because part of, the integral part of having an ABR strategy is that you have a very well orchestrated play designed, and the play dictates every interaction with that account, from who to when to how to what you say to what you send. So it's a really well articulated strategy that we put in play.
Right. And then obviously that for implementation, execution, ongoing, that requires a high level of discipline within the organization, right?
An extremely high level of discipline, which is why we have this beautifully laid out and orchestrated play so people know their roles. They know when they're participating, how they're participating, if they're participating. So it's a high level of orchestration.
Hmm. And obviously, I mean that raises its own challenges. I mean, within organizations, because as you know, especially sales organizations, when you trying to introduce a level of discipline and rigor can be challenging, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, put your big boy pants on and figure out how to make this work for you. It's not that complicated. We're going to give you all the tools you need to do. All you need to do is execute. Sales, you can do that, right? Of course they can.
Absolutely. Okay, so what other comments would you like to make around ABR or ABM for people who are maybe hearing this for the first time?
Well, if you're hearing it for the first time, that means you've been under a rock, and I hope you are okay. But I mean, I think you just do your research, right? There's so much out there. The vendors, the ABR vendors, are doing a great job of pumping out not so great content, but tons of content on the very topic. And there's events focused on this. It's easy to learn about. And this is something that requires due diligence and effort. And you really need to think your way through this. It's not just you go immediately into execution mode.
And what would you say to people who maybe say, "Oh, this just sounds like the fad du jour, and it's just another line. It'll be around for a while, and then something else will take over." What do you think that maybe differentiates this from some of the other initiatives that have come up over the last number of years?
What initiative has failed? They all work. They all work for a while. I think they all work until you screw it up. So, I mean, I'm not saying that this is the be all and the end all and it's not going to change. Of course, it's going to change. The reason it arrived is because our buyers changed so dramatically and how they interact with us. So, whether it's here, I don't think it's here for short term. I think it's going to be here for a longer term. Once again, where do you want your revenue to come from? Make the decision if this is right for you. And if it is, do your research and figure it out and then call me.
All right. Well, this has been a great conversation, and we're bumping up against the end of the time here. So what I wanted to do was give you a couple of moments to tell the viewers a little bit more about yourself, about what you do, and how they can contact you.
Sure. So, as you said, I'm Trish Bertuzzi of the Bridge Group. I'm the CEO and founder, and I'm also author of the Sales Development Playbook. My firm works with B2B tech companies primarily, though not exclusively, in 3 core areas: sales development, which means the front end of the sales process; inside sales, which to me means quota carrying; and now account-based revenue strategies. I'm easy to find out about. Google my name. I have that weird little name, Trish Bertuzzi. It's easy to find out about me. Our website is bridgegroupinc.com, or follow me on Twitter at @bridgegroupinc.
Excellent. Well, listen, again, my name is John Golden from SalesPOP Online Sales Magazine and Pipeliner CRM. I want to thank Trish for joining us today, and hopefully we'll get to chat again soon.
That would be my pleasure.